The stars were quiet, the way they always were in Sector 7 Keth. Nothing moved here, nothing dared to. This sector belonged to the Crethean Empire, and the Crethean Empire did not share. Senior sensor operator Veth sat alone in his station. His chair was old and made a small noise every time he moved. He had worked this post for 11 years. 11 years of watching empty space. Nothing ever happened in Sector 7 Keth. Nothing was supposed to happen. That was the whole point. Veth liked it that way. He had his warm drink, he had his quiet screens, he had his routine. He checked the left panel, he checked the right panel. He looked at the main display. Empty, empty, empty. He picked up his drink. Then the screen beeped. Veth put the drink down slowly. He looked at the display. There was a contact, a single point of light on the sensor map. It had not been there 1 second ago. He leaned closer. His eyes moved across the data. No identification signal, no transponder code, no flight permission, no name. Veth frowned. Ships did not just appear in Crethean space. Every ship that entered this sector had to file a route plan 14 days in advance. Every ship needed 3 different clearance codes. Every captain had to submit crew records and cargo information. This was the law, the Empire's law, and no one broke the Empire's law. Not here, not ever. Veth sent the standard hail. Unknown contact. This is Crethean Border Station 7. Identify yourself immediately, state your name, origin, and purpose. Failure to respond will be treated as a hostile act. He waited. Silence. He sent it again. Silence. He sent it a third time, in 4 different languages. Silence. The contact kept moving. Veth called his commander. Commander Dreth arrived in under a minute. He was a tall man with a long face and no patience for mistakes. He looked at the screen. He looked at Veth. This is a sensor error, Dreth said. Sir, I have run the diagnostic twice. Veth said, run it again. Veth ran it again. The contact was still there, still moving, still not answering. Commander Dreth pulled up the full sensor data himself. He studied it for a long moment. His expression did not change, but something behind his eyes shifted. Something small and uncomfortable. Speed? He asked. 0.8 light, Veth said. Dreth was quiet. That is not possible, he said. No, sir, Veth agreed. No ship could move at 0.8 light inside a gravity well. Not any known ship. Not even Crethean military vessels with their best engines. The laws of physics simply did not allow it. And yet, the contact was doing exactly that. Moving at a speed that should not exist, toward the heart of Crethean space, alone. Commander Dreth contacted High Command. He expected them to laugh. They did not laugh. Within 20 minutes, the communication channel was full of senior officers, admirals and fleet commanders who had been pulled from their sleep. They all looked at the same data. They all went very quiet. Grand Admiral Koss himself appeared on screen. He was old. He had fought 40 wars. He had never lost a single one. He looked at the contact on the sensor map for a long time. Hail them again, he said. They hailed the contact 17 more times, in 12 languages, including 2 that were considered dead languages, used only by historians. The contact did not respond to any of them. It just kept moving, slow, steady, patient, like it had decided where it was going a very long time ago, and nothing was going to change that. Grand Admiral Koss made a decision. Contact the Human Alliance, he said. The room went quiet. Contacting the Human Alliance was not something the Empire did lightly. The Cretheans and the humans had a difficult history. Wars had been fought. Borders had been argued over for decades. An uneasy peace existed between them. But this was not a moment for pride. This was a moment for information. The hull profile, Koss said. It is human design. I want to know if this is their ship. Ambassador Tor of the Human Alliance received the call at an uncomfortable hour. He was a careful man who chose his words the way other people chose their weapons. He listened to the Crethean request. He looked at the sensor image they sent. His face showed nothing. I will check, he said. He checked. It took 40 minutes. When he came back, his expression was the same. Careful, controlled, but his hands on the desk were very still. Too still. All human alliance vessels are accounted for, he said. We have no ships in Sector 7, Keth. We have no ships authorized for that region. We have no record of any vessel matching that profile in current service. Grand Admiral Koss leaned forward. What do you mean, current service? Ambassador Tor paused. Just for a moment. The hull design is old, he said. It matches a class of warship we stopped building approximately 190 years ago. We call it the Dreadnought Mark 7. The last one was decommissioned before most of your current officers were born. So it is an old human ship. It is a ship that matches the design of an old human ship, Tor said carefully. That is not the same thing. All ships of that class were either decommissioned or destroyed. There are none in service. There are none in storage. There are none that we know of anywhere. Koss stared at him. Then what is it? Tor looked at the image one more time. I don't know, he said. And for the first time in the conversation, he sounded like he meant it. Back in Sector 7, Keth, sensor operator Veth had not left his station. He had been awake for 19 hours. Someone had brought him food. He had not eaten it. He was watching the contact. He was always watching the contact. It had been moving for 6 hours now. Same speed, same course. It had not changed direction once. It had not slowed down. It had not sped up. It moved through space the way a stone falls through water, certain, unstoppable. Veth had worked with sensors long enough to understand ships. Every ship had a personality. Military ships moved with aggression. Cargo ships moved with heaviness. Exploration ships moved with curiosity. This ship moved with something else. He sat with that thought for a long time before he found the right word. Purpose. This ship moved with pure and total purpose. It was not exploring, it was not lost. It was not patrolling, it was going somewhere specific. And nothing in the universe was going to stop it. At hour 7, they finally got a clear visual. The long-range camera drones had been working for hours to get a good image. When it finally appeared on the main screen, the room went very quiet. The ship was enormous. Larger than any human ship in the current Alliance fleet. Larger than most Krethian warships. It was long and dark and shaped like something between a blade and a fist. Its hull was covered in damage, old damage. Burns and impact marks and long, deep scars that had never been repaired. This ship had been in battles, many battles, serious battles. Battles that had nearly destroyed it. And yet here it was, moving at .8 light. Like the damage meant nothing. Veth looked at the hull markings. He called in the Empire's language experts. The markings were symbols, old symbols. When the translation came back, the language expert looked at the screen with an expression like someone who had just found something in the dark, and was not sure if they wanted to pick it up. It is human script, she said. Old human script. A form that the Alliance stopped using approximately 200 years ago. Can you read it? Dreth asked. Yes, she said. What does it say? She looked at the screen one more time. ISS Reckoning, she said. The name meant nothing to the Krathians. They ran it through every database they had. No results. They asked the Human Alliance. There was a long pause before Ambassador Tor responded. A very long pause. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, quieter. ISS Reckoning, he said, was a heavy dreadnought. Dreadnought Mark 7 class. It was commissioned 212 years ago. It was assigned to the Outer Reach campaign. That was humanity's first major interstellar war. The ship was reported destroyed in the Battle of Pale Station. All 340 crew members were listed as killed in action. There is a memorial wall for them at the Human Alliance headquarters. We have honored them every year for 2 centuries. Silence. You are saying this ship is dead, Koss said. I am saying this ship does not exist, Tor said. It was destroyed 200 years ago. I am looking at the battle record right now. There were witnesses, there was debris. The ship is gone. Another silence, longer this time. Then I suggest you look at our sensor data again, Koss said. Grand Admiral Koss sent 1 destroyer to intercept 1 ship, his best captain. The ISV Courage, 600 crew members. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The order was simple. Stop the unknown contact. Disable it if possible, destroy it if necessary. Captain Yell of the ISV Courage accepted the order without question. She was known for being calm. She had been in 14 combat situations. She had never lost a ship. She had never lost a crew member. She approached the unknown contact from the standard intercept angle. She kept her weapons powered but not fired. She sent hails, no response. She moved to within firing range. The unknown ship still did not change course, still did not slow down, still did not respond. Captain Yell looked at it on her screen. This enormous dark ship with its old scars and its impossible speed. Moving through space like the rest of the universe was simply not there. She felt something she had not felt in 14 combat situations. She felt uncertain. She pushed the feeling away. She had her orders. "Weapons hot," she said. "Prepare to fire on my command." Her crew moved. Everything was ready. She took one breath. Fire. The ISV Courage's weapons fired. 6 full batteries. Enough energy to crack a small asteroid in half. The shots flew across space toward the unknown ship, and then, nothing. The communications officer looked up from her station. "Captain, the shots are not registering on the other side." "Say that again." "The energy readings show we fired. The shots left the ship. But there is no impact. There is no explosion. The screen went dark. Not just the main screen, every panel, every sensor, every light. The ISV Courage went completely dark. Not a single system responded. Captain Yell sat in a black and silent ship. She could not see anything. She could not contact anyone. She could hear her crew breathing in the darkness. She pressed every control she could reach. Nothing. The ship was dead. And then, from somewhere in that darkness, her communications officer said something. Her voice was very small. "Very quiet, Captain," she said. "I can hear something. It is coming through the emergency speaker." I think the unknown ship is talking to us." Captain Yell sat very still. "What is it saying?" A pause. "It says, Juan, it says, we see you. You should not be here. Go home and tell them we are coming. Tell them we remember." Silence. "Tell who?" Captain Yell said. No answer. The communications officer did not answer. Because she did not know. And in the darkness of a dead ship, floating in Sector 7 Keth, Captain Yell realized something. The unknown ship had not fired back. It had not needed to. It had simply turned off her ship. The way a person turns off a light. Without effort, without anger, without even stopping to look. The ISV Courage drifted in place for 40 minutes before its emergency power came back. When the screens returned and the sensors lit up again, the crew of 600 people looked at the display. The unknown ship was still there, still moving, same speed, same course. It had not slowed down at all. It had not even noticed them. Captain Yell sat in her chair for a long moment. Then she opened a channel to High Command. Her voice was steady. She had trained it to be steady. But everyone who heard the transmission later said the same thing. Something in her voice was different. "This is Captain Yell of the ISV Courage," she said. "The target did not respond to weapons fire. Repeat, weapons had no effect. The target disabled our entire ship without firing a single shot. All systems went dark for approximately 40 minutes. The target did not stop. It did not change course. It sent us a message." She paused. "The message said it is coming. And it remembers." Another pause. "I do not know what it remembers." She looked at the screen one more time. At the dark shape moving through the stars, "But I think," she said slowly, "we should find out." In the High Command room, Grand Admiral Koss stared at the sensor screen. The ISS Reckoning, a ship that had been dead for 200 years, was still moving, still heading straight toward the heart of the Krethian Empire. Still completely alone, still not answering anyone. And it had just disabled one of his best warships without effort, without stopping, without even caring. Koss was not a man who felt fear. He had fought 40 wars. He had seen things that would break most people. But sitting in that room looking at that screen, he felt something cold move through him, something he did not have a name for. Not fear exactly, something older than fear. "Send 5 more destroyers," he said quietly. His officers moved to obey, and somewhere in Sector 7 Keth, moving at .8 light, a ship that should not exist kept going, patient, silent, and absolutely certain of where it was headed. 5 destroyers left the Krethian base at full speed. Their engines burned bright against the dark. Their weapons were already powered. Their crews were already at battle stations. This was not a patrol. This was not an investigation. This was a show of force. The Krethian Empire had been showing force for 800 years, and it had always worked. Commander Sale led the 5-ship formation. He had heard the report from Captain Yell. He had listened to every word. Then he had set the report aside. He was not interested in fear. He was interested in results. One ship did it wrong, he told his officers before they launched. We are sending 5. That is 5 times the firepower, 5 times the crew, 5 times the result. His officers nodded. They believed him, he almost believed himself. The formation arrived at the coordinates in under 2 hours. They found the ISV Courage first. Captain Yell's ship was drifting slowly. Its lights were on again, its systems were running, but it was moving in a small circle, like an animal that had been stunned and had not yet figured out which direction was forward. Commander Sale opened a channel. Captain Yell. This is Commander Sale, we are here, where is the target? Captain Yell's voice came back immediately. Ahead of you, 11,000 kilometers. Same course, same speed, it has not changed anything. Understood. Pull back and let us handle this. A pause, Commander. Yell said. Yes. It turned off my entire ship without firing a weapon. I read your report. All 600 of my people sat in the dark, Captain. It did not even slow down. Sale cut the channel. He did not want to hear any more. He looked at his main screen. There it was, the ISS Reckoning, dark and enormous and moving like nothing in the universe could stop it. Formation attack, he said, standard spread. Hit it from 5 angles at once. The 5 destroyers moved into position. It took 8 minutes. During those 8 minutes, the ISS Reckoning did not change course, did not slow down, did not acknowledge the 5 warships moving into attack formation around it. The 5 destroyers spread out, north, south, east, west, and directly ahead. Every angle covered, no escape. Sale felt better with the formation in place. This was how things were supposed to work. Surround the enemy, hit from every direction. Leave no way out. On my mark, he said. His weapons officer waited. 3, 2, 1, fire. All 5 ships fired at the same moment. 24 full batteries, 5 ships worth of Creathian military firepower. All aimed at one target, all fired at the same time. The energy output was visible to sensors 3 sectors away. It looked from a distance like a small star had been born and died in the same second. Commander Sale watched the display. He waited for the impact reading. He waited for the explosion. He waited for the debris field. He waited. His sensor officer spoke very quietly. Sir, report. The shot said, Sir. I am looking at the data and I do not understand what I am seeing. Explain. The shots left our ships. All 24 batteries confirmed firing. The energy left our barrels. But it stopped. It stopped. Sir, it is like the space around that ship simply refused to let our shots through. They did not hit the hull. They did not explode. They just disappeared. About 200 meters from the target. Sale stared at the screen. The ISS Reckoning was still there, still moving, not a mark on it. Not a single new scratch on that already scarred hull. Fire again, he said. They fired again. Same result, nothing. Fire everything. They fired everything, every weapon, every battery, every last bit of energy the 5 ships could produce. The space around the ISS Reckoning lit up like the inside of a star. And when it cleared, the ship was still there, still moving. Still on the same course, same speed, like nothing had happened at all. Then the ISS Reckoning did something it had not done before. It turned, not much, just slightly, just enough. It turned the way a person turns when they hear a noise behind them. Slow, calm, not alarmed, just noticing. Commander Sale watched it turn. Something about that movement made his hands go cold. It was too calm. He had fought enemies who fought back hard and fast. He had fought enemies who ran. He had never fought an enemy who simply turned to look at him the way a person looks at a fly on a wall. Noting it, not concerned by it. Evasive, he started. The screens went dark. All 5 ships went dark at the same time. 600 crew members per ship. 3,000 people total, all sitting in complete darkness. Complete silence, no engines, no weapons, no communications, no light, nothing. Just the sound of breathing and the sound of hearts beating too fast. In the darkness of his command ship, Commander Sale sat very still. He had been in battle many times. He had been shot at. He had lost crew members. He had watched ships explode, but he had always had his ship around him. Always had his screens and his systems and his controls. Without them, he felt something new, something he did not enjoy. He felt small, not physically small, something deeper than that. He felt small the way a person feels small when they stand at the edge of the ocean for the first time and look out at the water. and realize it goes on forever. And they are just one small thing standing at its edge. 43 minutes passed. Then the lights came back, not slowly, all at once. Every system, every screen, every sensor, all back at exactly the same moment, as if someone had simply decided they could have their ships back now. Commander Sale looked at the main screen first. The ISS Reckoning was still on the same course. It had not stopped. It had not even paused. It was now further ahead than before. And there was a message on his screen, short, simple, in old human script that his system had automatically translated. It said, "We did not come for you, move aside." Commander Sale sent his report to High Command. He recorded every fact, every number, every weapon fired. Every system that had failed, every minute of darkness, he sent it all. Then he sat back in his chair and waited. He expected orders. He expected to be told to try again, or to be told to follow the ship, or to be told to do something. He was not prepared for what Grand Admiral Koss actually said. Koss looked at him from the screen for a long moment. His old face was very still. "Return to base," Koss said. "Sir, we can attempt another. Return to base." "Commander," Sale looked at him. "What are you going to do?" "Sir?" Koss was quiet for a moment. "I am going to send the Armada." The word went out across the Crithian Empire within hours. Not the full details, not the embarrassing parts. Not the parts about ships going dark and messages they could not explain. Just the order, every available warship. Report to Assembly Point Keth 9. Full weapons, full crew, full fuel. Now. It took 19 hours to assemble them, 4,000. 217 warships, the largest military fleet the Crethian Empire had ever put in one place. Ships of every class. Destroyers and cruisers and battleships and carriers. Supply ships and medical ships and command vessels. Over 2 million crew members. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. Enough firepower to crack open a moon. Enough firepower to end a civilization. All of it for one ship. Admiral Vaughn commanded the Armada. She was not Grand Admiral Koss. Koss had chosen to watch from high command. Vaughn was younger. She was fast and sharp and had never questioned an order in her life. She stood on the command deck of the flagship ISV Eternal and looked at the assembled fleet on her screen. 4,000 ships spread across space like a second field of stars. She felt the weight of it, the power of it. She had commanded large fleets before, but never this. Never 4,000. "This ends today," she told her officers. They believed her. She believed herself. The Armada tracked the ISS Reckoning for 3 hours before moving into final position. The unknown ship had maintained its course the entire time. It had not reacted to the arrival of 4,000 warships. It had not changed speed. It had not changed direction. It had sent no messages. Sensor teams aboard dozens of ships all reported the same thing. The ISS Reckoning was aware of them. Its sensors were clearly active. It could see them, all 4,000 of them. It simply did not care. Admiral Vaughn studied the ship on her screen for a long time before giving any orders. She had read every report. The single destroyer, the 5 destroyers, the weapons that did nothing, the ships that went dark, she had read it all. She was not going to make the same mistakes. "Spread the formation," she said. "I want every ship at maximum spread. No clustering. We cover every direction. We leave no corridor for it to move through." Her officers worked for 2 hours arranging 4,000 ships. When it was done, the ISS Reckoning sat at the center of a sphere of warships. Every direction blocked. Every angle covered distance, she said. "All ships are holding at 8,000 kilometers. Well outside its observed effect range. "Good," she said. "We fire from distance, we do not approach. We do not give it a chance to do what it did to Sale's ships." Her weapons officer nodded. "On your order, Admiral." Vaughn looked at the screen one last time. That dark ship with its old wounds, moving through a cage of 4,000 warships like they were not there. "Fire," she said. 4,000 ships fired at once. The energy that crossed space in that moment was beyond calculation. It was not like a battle, it was not even like a weapon. It was like a force of nature. Like a storm that crossed the entire sector. Like a wave that had no end. The sensors across the Armada registered the combined output, and then registered something else. Silence, no impact, no explosion, no debris. The ISS Reckoning was still there, and it still had not stopped moving. Admiral Vaughn stared at the screen. She had expected many outcomes. She had planned for resistance. She had planned for strange weapons or unknown defenses. She had not planned for this. She had not planned for nothing. "Fire again," she said. They fired again, nothing. Maximum output, all ships fire continuously. The Armada fired continuously for 4 minutes. 4 minutes of non-stop energy from 4,000 warships. 4 minutes of a level of force that had no name because no one had ever needed a name for it before. When it stopped, the ISS Reckoning was there. Same position, same course, same speed, not a mark. Then the ISS Reckoning did something. It stopped. For the first time since it had appeared on Veth's sensor screen many hours ago, the ISS Reckoning stopped moving. It sat in space at the center of 4,000 Krethian warships. And it was still. The Armada went still too. Not by order. No one ordered it. 2 million crew members across 4,000 ships all just stopped what they were doing and looked at their screens. Because something was happening. They could all feel it. Something was about to happen. The ISS Reckoning turned all the way this time, slowly. Like a sleeping creature waking up, it turned until it faced the center of the Krethian formation. Until it faced the flagship. Until it was looking directly at Admiral Vaughn. And then it opened something on its hull, panels along its side. Things that had been closed the entire time. Things that no sensor had detected. Things that no one had seen because no one had known to look for them. They opened like eyes. Admiral Vaughn had 1 second. 1 second of looking at those open panels and understanding what they were. 1 second of understanding what was about to happen. 1 second of understanding why Captain Yell's voice had sounded so different in her report. 1 second of understanding what it felt like to stand at the edge of the ocean and realize how small you are. She opened a channel to all ships. She had one thing to say. She said it. On the sensor screens at Krethian High Command, Grand Admiral Koss watched the Armada disappear. Not ship by ship, not in explosions. Not in fire and debris, they simply disappeared. One moment 4,000 ships were there. The next moment the sector was empty, no wreckage, no bodies. No debris field, no energy readings, just empty space. Where 4,000 ships and 2 million crew members had been 1 second before. The whole thing took less than 3 minutes. Koss stood at his screen for a very long time. The room around him was completely silent. Every officer, every aide, every communications operator was still. No one moved, no one spoke. They were all looking at the same empty space on the screen. The space where the greatest fleet ever assembled had been. The space where it was not anymore. And in that empty sector, moving again now. Same speed, same course, same patient certainty. The ISS Reckoning continued on its way, as if 4,000 ships had been nothing more than a minor interruption. As if 2 million crew members had been nothing more than a small delay. As if the greatest show of military force in Krethian history had been a minor inconvenience on the empty sensor map. One small light moved through the dark. Steady, quiet, heading somewhere specific. Heading with purpose. And the last thing Admiral Vaughn had said before the Armada disappeared was still sitting in the communication logs at High Command, waiting to be read. 3 words. Sent to the Human Alliance, 3 words that made no sense. 3 words that Koss read 4 times trying to understand them. The message said, "We are sorry." Koss looked at those 3 words for a long time. And Krethian Admiral commanding the most powerful fleet ever assembled. Sending an apology to humanity in her final moment. Before she vanished with 4,000 ships, Koss understood many things in his long life. But he did not understand this. He looked at the sensor screen again. The ISS Reckoning moving through his empire. Alone, unstoppable, unhurried. He picked up the communication channel to the Human Alliance. His hand was steady. His voice was steady. But somewhere deep inside him something that had stood firm for 40 wars was beginning to crack. "Ambassador Tor," he said. The human appeared on screen. "Grand Admiral. The Armada is gone." A pause. Gone. 4,000 ships. 2 million crew gone in under 3 minutes. No wreckage, no signals, nothing. Another pause. Longer. Tor's face showed something. Not surprise exactly. Something more complicated than surprise in the ship. Tor said. "Still moving," Koss said. "Same course, same speed. It is heading out of Krethian space and toward the border, your border." Tor was very quiet. "Ambassador," Koss said. "What is ISS Reckoning? What is it really?" Tor looked at something off-screen for a moment. Then he looked back. "I think," he said slowly. "That is something we are going to have to find out together." In Sector 7 Keth, where it had all started, sensor operator Veth was still at his station. He had been there for 31 hours. He had watched everything on the screens. The destroyers, the 5 ships, the Armada. He had watched the Armada disappear. He sat in the quiet of his station now, in the same chair that made a small noise every time he moved. He did not move. He looked at the sensor screen. The ISS reckoning was a small point of light now, moving away, getting smaller. Soon it would be gone from his sensors entirely. He watched it go. He thought about the message it had sent to the 5 destroyers. We did not come for you. He thought about what it had sent to no one in particular before the Armada disappeared. We remember. He thought about the Admiral's last message. We are sorry, Veth was not a man who thought about big things. He liked his routine. He liked his quiet sector. He liked his warm drink. But sitting there watching that small light move across his screen, he thought about one thing. If a ship that had been dead for 200 years came back, if it destroyed 4,000 warships without a scratch, if it was heading somewhere specific with total certainty, where was it going and what was it bringing with it? The small light on his screen blinked once and then it was gone. The investigation ship ISS Marlow arrived at the empty sector 11 hours after the Armada disappeared. It was not a warship. It had no heavy weapons, it had no battle crew. It had scientists, researchers, sensor specialists, people who studied things rather than destroyed them. Captain Reyes had been told what happened before she left. She had read every report. She had looked at the sensor data from the Armada's final minutes. She had watched the recording of 4,000 ships disappearing in under 3 minutes. She had watched it 3 times. Then she had told her crew to prepare for departure. No speech, no dramatic words, just prepare. Because there were no words for what they were going into. The sector was quiet when they arrived, completely quiet. Space was always quiet, but this was different. This was the quiet of a room where something terrible had just happened. The kind of quiet that sits in the air and does not leave. Captain Reyes stood at the main screen and looked at the emptiness. Begin scans, she said. The science team moved. Every scanner active, every sensor running. Looking for anything, debris, metal fragments, energy signatures, bodies, escape pods, emergency beacons, anything at all that would tell them 4,000 ships had been here. They found nothing. For 2 hours they scanned, moving the Marlow slowly through the sector, covering every area where the Armada had been, finding nothing, not a piece of metal, not a fragment of hull plating, not a single emergency beacon, not a body, nothing. Dr. Shen was the lead scientist on the Marlow. She was a small woman with very quick eyes and the habit of talking to herself when she was thinking. She walked between the sensor stations muttering, "No debris means no explosion. No explosion means the ships were not destroyed in the conventional sense, but they are gone, which means something happened. Something removed them or moved them or..." She stopped. "Or took them," she said. She said it to herself very quietly, but the sensor operator next to her heard it and looked up and did not say anything, because there was nothing to say at hour 3. The junior sensor operator found something. He almost missed it. It was not on the main scan. It showed up on a secondary pass, a small object, floating alone in the middle of the empty sector. Not metal exactly, or not only metal, it was small enough to fit in one hand. The Marlow moved toward it. A collection drone was sent out. The drone picked it up and brought it back. Everyone gathered around when it came through the airlock. It sat on the examination table under the lights. Small old data chip, the kind humans had not used in a very long time. Captain Reyes looked at it. Dr. Shen leaned over it. "How old?" Reyes asked. Shen scanned it. She was quiet for a moment. "The material composition is consistent with manufacturing techniques from approximately 200 years ago," she said. Reyes looked at her. "From a ship that was destroyed 200 years ago," Shen did not answer. She was already moving to plug the chip into a reader. The chip had encryption, old encryption, human military encryption from 2 centuries ago. It took the Marlow systems 40 minutes to break it. 40 minutes of everyone on the ship finding reasons to be near the science lab. Standing in doorways, pretending to check things. Not looking at the reader directly, but not leaving either. When the decryption finished, Dr. Shen sat down in front of the screen. She read the first line. Then she sat back, then she read it again. "Captain," she said. Reyes was already there. "What is it?" "It is a mission log," Shen said. "The log of ISS reckoning. Starting from its original launch date 212 years ago." The room was very still. "How long is it?" Reyes asked. Shen scrolled and scrolled. Anne scrolled all of it, she said. 200 years of entries, thousands of them. It is, this chip should not be able to hold this much data. The storage capacity of chips from this era was... She stopped. It should not be possible, she said. She said it the way people had been saying a lot of things lately. Things that should not be possible. Things that were happening anyway. Captain Reyes made a decision. Read it from the beginning, she said. They read it from the beginning. The early entries were normal. The log of a military ship on a dangerous mission. The crew of 340 people heading into their first major interstellar war. The captain at that time was a man named Harrow. His writing was direct and clear. He recorded everything. Ship status, crew morale, mission objectives. The entries from the first weeks read like any other military log. Routine maintenance, drills, navigation updates. The occasional crew conflict resolved before it became a problem. Captain Harrow seemed like a careful man, a thorough man. The kind of man who checked everything twice and wrote it all down. Then came the entries about the Pale Station battle. The mission had been simple in the way that impossible things are sometimes described as simple. The ISS reckoning was to enter the enemy formation alone, draw fire, pull as many enemy ships as possible away from the main human fleet. Give the human fleet time to evacuate the colonies behind them. 340 people going in alone as bait to save millions. The entry where Captain Harrow explained this to his crew was short. He did not use dramatic words. He did not make speeches. He just wrote what he told them and what they said back. He told them the mission. He told them what it meant. He told them they did not have to stay. There were escape pods. No one would be punished for leaving. He gave them 1 hour to decide. The entry after that said only this. No one left. Dr. Shen had to stop reading for a moment. She looked at the wall. Then she looked back at the screen and kept reading. The Battle of Pale Station was in the next entries. Captain Harrow wrote through it. Writing between firing solutions and damage reports. Writing in short sentences because there was no time for long ones. Enemy ships closing, return fire. Hull breach on Deck 7, 17 crew members lost. Keep drawing them away, keep them coming. Keep them away from the colonies. The entries got shorter as the battle got worse. 3 words, 2 words, 1 word. Then a gap, a long gap, 6 hours with no entries. And then one more entry, different handwriting. Not Harrow's neat, careful script, shaky fast. Like someone writing with hands that were not quite steady. It said, Captain Harrow is gone. Most of the senior officers are gone. I am Engineer Second Class Miravos. I am writing this because someone should write it. The ship should not be alive. We took enough fire to destroy 10 ships. But something happened, I do not know how to explain it. The ship changed, we changed. I do not know what we are now, but we are still here. All of us who survived are still here, and we are different. Captain Reyes stopped reading. She looked at Shen. Shen looked back at her. How many survived the battle? Reyes asked quietly. Shen checked. She lists them later in the entry, Shen said. 211 people. Out of 340, yes. And they were different. That is what she writes. Reyes looked at the screen again. Keep reading. The entries after Mira Voss's first one were extraordinary. Voss wrote every day. She wrote about what had happened to the survivors. She wrote carefully, trying to find words for things that did not have words yet. The ship had been hit by something in the final moments of the battle. Not a conventional weapon, something the enemy had used only once. A weapon designed to end things, end ships, end people, end everything. It had hit the ISS reckoning at the moment of its worst damage. When the hull was already broken in a dozen places. When the engines were almost gone. When most of the senior crew was already lost and it had done something. Not what it was supposed to do, something else. Something the enemy had not intended. Voss wrote about it in small pieces. The way you write about something you are still trying to understand. The crew that survived was not the same. They did not need food the same way. They did not sleep the same way. They healed faster. They thought faster. They could feel the ship around them the way you feel your own hands. The ship itself had changed. Damage that should have taken months to repair seemed to repair itself. Slowly, over weeks and months, sealing and growing back together like a wound healing. And the crew and the ship were connected in a way that Voss spent many entries trying to describe. In the end, she wrote, We are not the ship, and we are not separate from the ship, we are something in between. I do not know the word for it. Maybe there is no word. Maybe we are the first of something new. Dr. Shen stopped reading for a moment. She looked at Captain Reyes. They did not die, she said. No, Reyes agreed. They became something else. Yes, and then they stayed out there for 200 years. Reyes said nothing for a moment. Keep reading, she said finally. The entries continued across 2 centuries. Voss wrote for 30 years, then others wrote. The crew did not age the same way anymore. Some of them were still alive and writing entries 100 years later, changed further from human, further from anything that had a name, but always still themselves, still the crew of ISS Reckoning, still the people who had gone out as bait so others could live. They had kept going after the battle into deep space. Far beyond the edge of known territory, they had found things out there, things that changed them further, things they studied and learned and in some cases absorbed into the ship. Voss wrote in one of her later entries, "We went out to die so others could live. We did not die, so now we must decide what to do with ourselves. We are still human enough to ask that question. I hope we are always human enough to ask that question." The entries about what they had found in deep space made Dr. Shen sit very still. She read them slowly, reading some sentences twice. 3 times she was a scientist. She had spent her life studying the edge of what was known. What the ISS Reckoning had found was beyond the edge. Far beyond technology that had no framework, phenomena that had no names, things that made the physics she knew look like a rough first draft. And the crew had not just found these things, they had learned them. All 211 of them learning together across decades. Learning the way you learn something when you have all the time in the universe and nowhere else to be. Captain Reyes read one entry out loud, not because she meant to, just because she had to hear the words. It was an entry from 80 years ago, written by a crew member named Osei. It said, "I remember being a person who was afraid of the dark. I was 23 years old when we launched and I had never been good with closed spaces or empty ones. I used to have to breathe carefully when I was on night watch. Now I am the dark in some ways. I am something that lives in it. I still remember being afraid of it. I am glad I remember. It is important to remember what you were. It is how you know what you chose to become." The room on the Marlow was very quiet. Everyone was listening. People who had pretended to be doing other things had stopped pretending. They were all just standing there, listening. The entries from the last decade were different. Shorter again, but not because things were worse. Because the crew had become efficient in a way that went beyond words. They communicated with each other in ways the log could not fully capture. But they still wrote because writing was human, because they were still human enough to want a record. The entries from the last decade talked about watching. The crew had been watching human space from a distance for years, watching human civilization grow and struggle and fight and recover and grow again, watching with something that was not quite emotion anymore but was close enough to emotion that it moved like emotion. And they had been watching the Krethian Empire, watching what the Krethians did on the border, what they did to the human colonies there, the raids, the destroyed settlements, the people who did not get to grow and struggle and recover. Voss had written the clearest entry about this. From 40 years ago she had still been alive then, 170 years after Pale Station. She wrote, "We went out so the colonies could live. We drew the fire so the people behind us would have time to run. That was the deal we made. Not with anyone in particular, just with ourselves, with the idea that some lives matter and some things are worth dying for. We did not die, but the deal is still the deal. The colonies are still ours to protect. Distance does not change that. 200 years does not change that. What we are now does not change that." The last entry was recent. 3 days ago, written in the same clear, simple style the crew had always used. It said, "We have made our decision. The border colonies have been suffering for 11 years. We counted the settlements, we counted the names. We know every family that was lost. We remember them the way we remember our own crew. That is what we do now. We remember, we are going back. We are bringing what we collected in 200 years of deep space. We left as bait. We are returning as something else. We do not know if humanity will understand what we are now. We do not know if they will be afraid. We would not blame them if they were. But we are still crew of ISS Reckoning. We are still the people who made a promise. We kept it once. We are going to keep it again." Dr. Shen finished reading. She sat back. She looked at the ceiling for a moment. Then she looked at Captain Reyes. "They are coming here," she said. "Yes," Reyes said. "To human space?" "Yes, and they have 200 years worth of whatever they found out there." "Yes." Shen was quiet. "Are we supposed to stop them?" Reyes thought about this. She thought about the Armada. She thought about 4,000 ships gone in 3 minutes. She thought about a crew of 211 people who had gone out to die so others could live, and had kept that promise for 2 centuries. "No," she said. She moved to the communications panel. She opened a channel to the Human Alliance. "This is Captain Reyes of ISS Marlowe," she said. "I need to speak to the highest level of command available. Immediately I have information about ISS Reckoning." She paused. "They are coming home." Another pause. "And I think we should open the door." On the long-range scanner, a single contact had appeared, moving toward human space fast now, faster than before, as if having made the decision, having left the chip behind. Having finished with the Crethean Empire, there was no reason to be slow anymore. Dr. Shen stood next to Captain Reyes and watched it on the screen. This small point of light, this ship that had been dead for 200 years. This crew that had gone further than any human had gone and come back as something that did not have a name yet. "What do you think they are?" Shen said, not really asking. Just saying the question out loud because it was too large to keep inside. Reyes watched the light on the screen. "I think they are what happens," she said slowly. "When humans make a promise and mean it." Shen looked at her. Reyes looked at the screen. "I think they are what happens when you go out into the dark far enough and long enough," she said. "And you do not forget where you came from." The contact kept moving. Steady, certain, coming home after 200 years, coming home. The alert came at 300 hours, the kind of hour when the universe feels thinnest, when the dark outside the windows is deeper than usual, when sounds carry differently. Defense Station Halcyon was the first human installation to pick up the contact. Senior Watch Officer Dara had been on duty for 6 hours. She had another 6 to go. She had been drinking cold coffee and reading maintenance reports, the kind of night that existed only to be gotten through. Then her long-range scanner made a sound it had never made before. Not the usual contact tone, something different, lower. Like the scanner itself was uncertain how to categorize what it was seeing. Dara set down her coffee. She looked at the screen. One contact, moving fast. Faster than any ship she had ever seen on a scanner. No ID signal, no transponder. No flight clearance. She checked the profile. Old hull design, very old. She had been briefed. Everyone at every human defense station had been briefed in the last 12 hours. She knew exactly what she was looking at. She opened the emergency channel. "This is Watch Officer Dara at Halcyon Station," she said, her voice completely flat and professional. "ISS Reckoning has crossed into human space. It is moving toward the inner sectors. Speed is beyond our measurement range. I am initiating Protocol 7, she paused. Then she said the part that was not in any protocol. The part she said because it was true. "It is coming fast," she said, "and I do not think anything we have is going to slow it down." The Human Alliance Emergency Council assembled in 20 minutes. 20 minutes was a record. People had come from wherever they were. In whatever they were wearing, one senior admiral arrived still in the clothes she had been sleeping in. No one mentioned it. There were more important things. Director Okafor ran the council. He was 60 years old and had handled every major crisis of the last 2 decades. Wars and plagues and diplomatic collapses. He had a reputation for being unshakable. He sat at the head of the table and looked at the sensor data from Halcyon Station. He looked at it for a long time. Then he looked at Captain Reyes on the screen. Reyes had transmitted the full contents of the data chip 6 hours ago. Every entry, every word Mira Voss had written. Every word every crew member had written across 200 years. The council had been reading it since then. "You recommend we let it in," Okafor said. "I recommend we do not try to stop it," Reyes said. "Those are 2 different things, but in this case they lead to the same place. And if it is not what the log says it is, then 4,000 Crethean warships already prove that what we do about it does not matter much." Okafor looked at her. Reyes looked back. "Director," she said. "They went out so we could live. Every single one of them volunteered. No one left on the escape pods. They drew the fire and they took the hit and they kept the colony safe. And then they spent 200 years out there watching and remembering and keeping their promise." She paused. "I think we owe them a door." The debate lasted 40 minutes. Some council members wanted to try to stop it. They brought up weapons platforms and defense grids and coordinated strikes. Admiral Chen pointed out quietly that the Creathians had tried a coordinated strike with 4,000 ships. The debate ended shortly after that. The vote was 12-3. Open the door, or rather, do not close it, let it come, see what it brings. Director Okafor sent the order to every defense station in the inner sectors. Do not fire, do not attempt to intercept. Stand down weapons, let it pass. He sat back after sending the order. He looked at the sensor display showing that single small contact moving through human space, like it owned every star it passed. 200 years, he said quietly. His aide looked at him. Nothing, he said. He picked up the mission record that the historian Dr. Yima had pulled from the archives. The original file for ISS Reckoning. He opened it to the crew manifest. 340 names, photographs next to each one. Young faces, most of them so young. He looked at the photograph next to the name Mira Voss. Engineer second class, 26 years old at launch. She was smiling in the photograph. The kind of smile that does not know yet what is coming. He closed the file. Defense Station Portis picked up the contact 2 hours later. Commander Wells had his orders, stand down, do not fire. He stood at the main screen and watched ISS Reckoning pass through his sector. He had all weapons offline as ordered. He had his crew at their stations but hands away from controls. ISS Reckoning passed within 3,000 kilometers of his station. Close enough to see on the visual cameras, Wells switched to the camera feed. He had read the reports, he had seen the sensor data. He had looked at the old photographs of the ship from its commission ceremony 212 years ago. He had thought he was prepared. He was not prepared, the ship was enormous. He had known that from the data. But knowing a number and seeing the thing were different. It was larger than his station. Larger by a factor that made his station feel small in a way it had never felt small before. Its hull was dark, dark in a way that was not just color. Dark the way deep space is dark, like it had absorbed some of what it had traveled through. Like 200 years in the places beyond the edge of known territory had left something on it. The old scars were still there, the burns and impact marks from the Battle of Pale Station 2 centuries ago. But they were different now, changed. Around each scar, the hull had grown differently. Not repaired exactly, grown. The way bone grows back denser after a break. Stronger at the old wounds than anywhere else. Wells looked at the name on the hull, ISS Reckoning in old human script. And underneath it, in smaller letters, something that had not been there in the original photographs. Something the crew must have added at some point in 200 years. It said, "We remember." Wells watched it pass. It did not slow down for his station, it did not speed up. It moved at its own pace, on its own terms. When it was gone from his camera feed, he stood at the empty screen for a moment. Then he opened a channel to command. ISS Reckoning has passed Portis Station, he said. Heading inward, no hostile action, no communication. He paused. "It is," he started, he stopped, he tried again. "It is the most extraordinary thing I have ever seen," he said. Then he closed the channel because there was nothing else to say. The ISS Reckoning reached Central Station at 1400 hours. Central Station was the largest human installation in the inner sectors. 12 kilometers long, 300,000 crew and civilians, the center of Human Alliance operations. Every senior officer was there, Director Okafor was there. Dr. Yima, the historian, was there with her archive files. Captain Reyes had arrived by fast courier 2 hours earlier. She stood at the observation window and watched the ISS Reckoning approach. She had seen it on scanner. She had not seen it in person. She was quiet for a long time looking at it. Dr. Shen stood next to her, also quiet. There were no words ready for this moment. They had not been invented yet. The ISS Reckoning stopped. It stopped exactly 500 meters from the main docking bay. Not close enough to dock, far enough to be clearly a choice. Waiting, asking without asking. Director Okafor stood at the communications panel. He had thought about what to say for hours. He had written things down and crossed them out. In the end, he said the simplest thing. The thing that was most true, ISS Reckoning, he said. "This is Director Okafor of the Human Alliance. You are cleared to dock. Welcome home." 30 seconds of silence. Then every system on Central Station did something it had never done before. Every screen, every panel, every display in every room on the entire station went dark for exactly 3 seconds. Then came back all at once. In those 3 seconds, every person on the station felt something. Not pain, not fear, something else. Something that passed through them the way a sound passes through water. A feeling without a name, like being recognized. Like being seen completely by something very large and very old and very patient. And then it was gone and the screens were back. And a single message was on every display on the station in plain, simple human text. It said, "Thank you for the door." The docking happened slowly. The ISS Reckoning moved with great care toward the bay. Considering its size, it moved with extraordinary precision. Not a single scrape, not a single miscalculation. It fit into the docking bay the way a hand fits into a glove that was made for it. Like it knew exactly where it was going. Like it had been thinking about this moment for a very long time. The docking clamps connected, the airlock aligned. A sound went through Central Station, low, deep. The sound of something very large settling into place after a very long journey. Director Okafor stood at the airlock with a small group. Captain Reyes, Dr. Yima, Admiral Chen. 4 security officers who were there more for ceremony than any real belief they could do anything. They stood in a line and waited. The airlock pressure equalized. The inner door opened. They came out one at a time. Not rushing, not slow, at a pace that felt deliberate. Like every step had been considered. The first thing Okafor noticed was that they looked human. That was the first thing, they looked human. 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head, wearing clothes that were a version of the old Human Alliance uniform from 200 years ago. Kept and maintained and worn still like a thing you keep because it means something. Not because it is practical. The second thing he noticed was their eyes. Every person who came through that airlock had eyes that were the same. Not the same color, not the same shape. The same quality, still, absolutely still. The way very deep water is still. The way old mountains are still. Eyes that had seen 200 years of things that had no names and had kept seeing anyway. Eyes that had looked at the armada of 4,000 ships the same way a person looks at weather. Noting it, not concerned, they came out in groups of 10. There were 211 of them, the ones who had survived Pale Station. 200 years later, still 211. Some looked young, some looked old. None of them looked exactly like any age Okafor could name. Age had done something different to them than it did to ordinary people. Like time had passed through them instead of over them. The last one through the airlock was a woman. She was not the tallest or the largest. She was not wearing anything different from the others. But everyone in the room knew immediately that she was the one who spoke for them. The way you know without being told. Something in how she moved. Something in how the others moved around her. She stopped in front of Director Okafor. She looked at him with those still deep eyes. For a moment she just looked. Like she was reading something in his face. Something he did not know was written there. Then she spoke. Her voice was ordinary. Completely ordinary, the voice of a person. Not of something vast and strange. "I am Mira Voss," she said. "Engineer 2nd Class, ISS Reckoning, reporting for duty." Director Okafor had prepared for many things. He had not prepared for this. He had not prepared for a 26-year-old engineer who was now 226 years old and looked, somewhere in between, to stand in front of him and report for duty, like she had just returned from a standard mission. He had not prepared for the feeling that moved through him, something between grief and joy and something else that had no category. He managed one word, "Welcome," he said. His voice was steady. He was proud of that. They moved to the large briefing room, all of them. The crew of ISS Reckoning and the senior staff of the Human Alliance. They sat across from each other. 211 people who had been to places no one had names for, and the people who had stayed, who had built and fought and struggled in the space between the stars for 2 centuries. Not knowing the ones who had gone out as bait were still out there, still watching, still remembering. Mira Voss put something on the table, a device, small black, made of something that was not quite metal and not quite anything else. No one in the room recognized the material. No one in the room recognized the design. It sat on the table and did nothing. And somehow the doing nothing was the most significant thing in the room. "Every empire that ever threatened human colonies," Voss said, her voice quiet and direct. "We visited them, we observed what they did. We gave them information. We showed them what we had learned. We offered them a choice." She paused. "Some chose well," she said. "They are still out there, changed, but still there. Still choosing." Another pause. "The Krathian Empire made its choice when it sent 4,000 ships," she said. "They chose to end us rather than understand us, so we made a different choice about them. Director Okafor looked at the device on the table. "What happened to them?" he said. Voss looked at him. "They are not gone," she said. "We do not end things. We learned that from what was done to us at Pale Station. Ending things is easy. It is also permanent. We prefer something else." "What?" "We gave them what we were given," she said. "The chance to become something new. Whether they choose to is up to them." "That is always up to them." Okafor looked at her. "The 2 million crew members," he said, "from the Armada, are also being given that choice," she said simply. The room was very still. Voss picked up the device. She turned it in her hands. "We were gone 200 years, she said. "We saw things, we learned things, we became things. We have a great deal to share if you want it." She looked around the room, at the faces of the people who had stayed. "But first," she said, and something in her voice changed slightly. Something warmer moved through it. "First, I want to know what we missed. 200 years is a long time, and we watched from far away, but watching is not the same as being there." She looked at Dr. Yima, who was sitting very still with tears on her face that she did not seem to notice. "You are a historian," Voss said. "Yes," Yima said. "Then tell me," Voss said. And she sat back in her chair the way someone sits when they have time, when they finally have all the time they need. "Tell me everything." Outside the briefing room, on the scanner screens at every station along the corridor, a new contact had appeared, then another, then 3 more. One of the junior officers noticed it first. He stared at the screen. Then he walked quickly to the briefing room door. He knocked. Captain Reyes came out. He showed her the scanner. She looked at it. 5 new contacts, unknown profiles, moving toward human space from 5 different directions. No ID signals, no transponder codes, moving with that particular quality of certainty that she had first seen on a scanner screen in the empty sector where 4,000 ships had been. Moving with purpose, she went back into the briefing room. She walked to where Mira Voss was sitting. She showed her the scanner reading. Voss looked at it. Something moved across her still face, not surprise. Something closer to recognition, satisfaction. "We are not the only ones who went out that day," she said. Reyes looked at her. "There were other ships," Voss said, "other crews. Other people who made the same choice we made. We found some of them out there over the years. We shared what we learned. They went their own ways." She looked at the scanner. "They have been watching too," she said. "They heard we were coming home." She looked at Reyes. "They are coming home too." Captain Reyes looked at the scanner for a long moment. 5 contacts, 5 more ships, 5 more crews who had gone out 200 years ago, and become something that did not have a name. Coming home, she thought about sensor operator Veth at his station in Sector 7 Keth. Watching his quiet sector for 11 years. Nothing ever happening and then everything happening. She thought about the one small light on his screen that had started all of this. She thought about the word Voss had said, home. She went back to the communications panel. She opened a wide channel to every human station, every human ship, every human outpost from the inner sectors to the border. "This is Captain Reyes of ISS Marlow," she said. "Be advised, we have additional unknown contacts approaching human space from multiple vectors. They are not hostile, I repeat. They are not hostile." She paused. "Open the doors," she said. "All of them." She looked out the observation window at the ISS Reckoning sitting in its dock after 200 years. Dark and enormous and covered in the scars of a battle that had changed everything. And on its hull, those 2 words the crew had added sometime in 2 centuries of deep space and deep dark and deep learning. "We remember." She kept the channel open. "They are coming home," she said in the briefing room. Mira Voss was listening to Dr. Yima talk. The historian had started with the decade after Pale Station. She was telling it carefully, all of it. The wars and the peace and the things built and the things lost and the people who had mattered and the moments that had changed everything. Voss listened with her still deep eyes and her 200 years of patience. Listening the way you listen when you have wanted to hear something for a very long time. The device on the table sat quietly between them, holding 200 years of things learned in the dark beyond the edge of everything, waiting, the same way the ISS Reckoning had waited, patient, certain with all the time in the universe, and nowhere else to be, and